Lyra floated carefully above the crystal blue oceans of the distant planet, her boots brushing against the narrow metal walkways of the dragon nursery. The sound of crying filled the air, high-pitched and urgent, making her stomach twist. She did not know why she had been chosen to care for these creatures. No one explained it. She only knew she could not leave them. The babies were small, no bigger than her arms, and their tiny wings fluttered helplessly as they hissed and whimpered. The first dragon she approached had silver scales that reflected the strange twin suns overhead. Its eyes were wide, wary, and filled with fear. It hissed and spat a tiny spark of fire, making Lyra jump back, her heart racing. "It's okay, I'm not going to hurt you," she whispered, holding out the flask of nutrient gel. The baby dragon sniffed cautiously, its tail flicking nervously. Slowly, it inched closer, licking the gel from the edge of the flask. Lyra smiled softly. One small victory. Another baby, green and spiky, seemed almost angry. It refused to eat, its cries sharper, more desperate. Lyra tried different techniques, soft humming, gentle tapping, even mirroring its movements, but nothing worked. She watched it closely, noticing the patterns in its behavior. Every time she moved too quickly, it shrank back. Every time she stayed still, it relaxed slightly. She realized she had to earn its trust, not demand it. The smallest baby, covered in golden flecks, was the easiest in some ways but the hardest in others. It mirrored her emotions almost like a mirror. If Lyra felt anxious, it trembled. If she smiled, it seemed to brighten, chirping softly. She began to speak to it quietly, telling it stories of the stars and distant planets. She imagined a world beyond this nursery, where dragons and humans could fly together freely. The golden-flecked dragon listened, tilting its head as if understanding each word. At night, the nursery was quiet except for the soft breathing and occasional whimpers of the babies. Lyra sat on the edge of the platform, her legs dangling over the side, staring at the glowing oceans below. She wondered why the dragons' mothers had left them here, high above the world, and why she had been chosen to care for them. She did not know she was being watched. High above the floating cliffs, hidden in the shadows of massive golden wings, the mother dragons observed silently. They communicated through colored beams of light that shimmered in the sky, testing Lyra's patience, courage, and intelligence. A sudden cry broke her thoughts. The green dragon had toppled from a small ledge, dangling by one claw. Lyra's heart froze. Without thinking, she rushed forward, scooping the baby into her arms. Its wings flailed, knocking her balance, but she held it tight, whispering, "You're safe now. I've got you." The mother dragon's eyes glimmered from the shadows. Lyra had acted on instinct, protecting the baby without hesitation. The first trial had begun. In the following days, Lyra learned quickly. Each baby had its own needs and quirks. The silver dragon responded to rhythm. Tapping on the metal walkway in steady beats soothed it. The green dragon responded to stillness and patience, only approaching when she stayed calm. The golden-flecked one responded to emotion, brightening when she smiled or spoke gently. Every interaction taught her more about their world and their intelligence. One evening, a storm rolled across the sky. Plasma lightning crackled, illuminating the clouds in flashes of purple and gold. The babies panicked, crying and flapping their tiny wings in fear. Lyra held them close, speaking softly and moving slowly, guiding them to safer platforms. She realized that fear could spread quickly, even among dragons, but her calmness could steady them. When the storm passed, she stayed awake for hours, listening to their soft breathing and making sure they were all unharmed. Lyra began to dream of flying. In her sleep, she saw herself soaring across the skies with the babies clinging to her shoulders, the wind whipping past her face. She felt their trust, their tiny claws holding her tightly, and the warmth of their young hearts. She saw flashes of golden light, the mother dragons watching, testing her reactions even in dreams. She woke with a start, the image still vivid in her mind. Something had shifted. She felt closer to the babies, and something in the sky seemed to acknowledge her courage. Despite the difficulties, Lyra found joy in small moments. The silver dragon nuzzled her cheek when it was happy. The green one finally accepted a gentle stroke along its spine. The golden-flecked dragon chirped excitedly whenever she entered the nursery. Each small connection made the nights less lonely and the challenges less frightening. Lyra realized that caring for these babies was not just about feeding them or protecting them. It was about understanding them, seeing the world through their eyes and learning to trust one another. As she sat watching the twin suns set over the horizon, Lyra felt a quiet determination growing inside her. She did not yet know what tests awaited her, or why the mother dragons had left the babies in her care. But she knew one thing: she would not fail them. She would feed them, protect them, and learn from them no matter what trials came next. In the distance, the shadows of the mother dragons glimmered, as if acknowledging her resolve. The path ahead was unknown, filled with danger and wonder, but Lyra was ready to walk it. And so, under the shimmering sky of the floating cliffs, she fed the crying baby dragons, unaware that each act of care was shaping her destiny and preparing her for a role far greater than she could imagine. Lyra woke early, the pale light of the twin suns spilling across the floating nursery. The babies were already awake, their tiny wings twitching nervously. She carried the silver dragon first, holding it close as she guided it to a small feeding platform. It sniffed the nutrient gel and began to eat, making soft, pleased chirps. Lyra smiled. Each small success felt like a victory, a step closer to earning their trust. The green dragon, however, remained stubborn. It sat at the far edge of the nursery, hissing and flicking its tail. Lyra knew it would not respond to force or hurry. She knelt quietly on the platform, keeping her movements slow and calm. She whispered soft words, mimicking the rhythm of its breathing. Minutes passed. The green dragon's posture relaxed slightly. She held her hand out, slowly letting it see she meant no harm. After a tense moment, it stepped closer, sniffing her fingers before retreating again. Lyra held her breath. Patience, she reminded herself. Patience and understanding. The golden-flecked dragon clung to her shoulder, chirping excitedly. Lyra felt its tiny claws digging into her skin but did not flinch. This dragon was sensitive to emotions, and it matched her feelings almost perfectly. She panicked, it would panic. If she laughed softly, it chirped happily. Lyra realized that learning to control her own fear and frustration was as important as teaching them to trust her. She took a deep breath and let herself relax. The golden-flecked dragon settled, resting its head against her neck. As the days passed, Lyra experimented with new ways to communicate. She tapped on the metal platforms in patterns, humming soft melodies, and even clapped gently when the babies responded correctly. The silver dragon learned quickly, following the beats of her taps and nudging her hand in approval. The green dragon was slower, but over time, it began to copy her movements, flapping its wings in rhythm. The golden-flecked dragon was intuitive, picking up on her smallest gestures and mirroring them immediately. One afternoon, a shadow passed over the nursery. Lyra looked up to see a massive golden dragon circling high above. Its wings glinted in the sun, and its eyes held a deep, knowing intelligence. Lyra froze, unsure of whether it was a threat. The baby dragons hissed and chirped nervously. She held them close, speaking softly to calm their fear. The golden dragon descended slowly, landing on a nearby platform with a grace that made Lyra's heart pound. The dragon spoke without words, projecting thoughts directly into her mind. Why do you care for them? Are you worthy? Lyra's eyes widened. She did not know how to answer, so she acted. When a loose crystal fell from above, she shielded the golden-flecked baby with her body, letting the crystal strike the platform near her feet. The baby squealed but remained unharmed. The mother dragon's eyes gleamed with approval. Lyra understood that action spoke louder than words. She had passed the first true test. In the following weeks, Lyra faced more challenges. The nursery was not a safe place. Plasma storms swept across the floating cliffs, and strong winds tossed the babies in unpredictable ways. One day, the green dragon nearly slipped from a narrow ledge. Lyra lunged just in time, catching it and holding it close to her chest. The silver dragon and golden-flecked dragon watched her carefully, their eyes filled with growing trust. Lyra realized that courage and quick thinking were as important as patience and kindness. Lyra also learned to read the baby's signals. The silver dragon flared its wings slightly when it wanted attention. The green dragon's tail flicks indicated curiosity or fear. The golden-flecked dragon's chirps changed tone depending on its mood. She began to anticipate their needs before they even expressed them. By the end of the second week, the babies were responding to her calls, following her from platform to platform, and even mimicking her movements during feeding sessions. One quiet night, Lyra lay beside them, watching the twin suns set beyond the horizon. The babies huddled against her, purring softly. She felt a connection forming, a bond stronger than anything she had known. It was not just love, it was understanding. She could feel their thoughts, their fears, their excitement. In return, they seemed to sense hers. The golden-flecked dragon nuzzled her face gently, chirping a soft song. Lyra smiled, realizing that trust was no longer one-sided, it was mutual. The mother dragon watched from a distance, still hidden but no longer fully unseen. Lyra could sense the approval, a quiet presence that encouraged her to continue. The trials were far from over, but she felt ready. Each day, each challenge, each moment spent caring for the babies was teaching her more than she could have imagined. She learned to fly with them, guiding their tiny wings and helping them balance on narrow platforms. She discovered the importance of timing, of watching and responding with care. One morning, as the first light touched the nursery, the babies began to play. The silver dragon chased the green one in loops, the golden-flecked dragon flapped along, joining the game. Lyra laughed, her heart swelling with pride. They were learning from her, but she was learning from them as well. Each moment strengthened their bond, shaping her into someone who could lead, protect, and understand creatures far older and wiser than herself. Lyra realized something important. This was not just about feeding or protecting the dragons. It was about preparing for something greater. The babies' mother dragons had left them in her care for a reason. Each small lesson, each act of patience and bravery, was part of a test. Lyra did not yet understand the full purpose, but she felt a growing strength within her, a quiet confidence that she could rise to the challenge whatever it might be. By the end of the day, Lyra watched the babies settle down for rest, their tiny bodies tucked safely in their nests. She sat beside them, tired but content, and gazed at the sky. She felt the presence of the mother dragons again, their ancient eyes observing, waiting, approving. Lyra knew the journey ahead would not be easy. There would be storms, dangers, and trials she could not yet imagine. But she also knew that with courage, patience, and care, she could face whatever came next. And so, Lyra continued her lessons in fire and flight, guiding the babies, learning from them, and unknowingly preparing for the destiny the mother dragons had set before her. Every flap of a tiny wing, every trusting chirp, every shared moment of warmth was shaping her into someone far greater than she had ever imagined. The first steps of a journey had begun, and Lyra was ready to take them. The sun rose pale and cold over the floating cliffs, casting long shadows across the nursery. Lyra stretched, feeling the weight of the baby's trust on her shoulders. They chirped softly, restless and eager for the day ahead. She carried the silver dragon first, placing it gently on the feeding platform. The green dragon watched from the edge, tail twitching, while the golden-flecked one clung to her shoulder, peeping in excitement. Today felt different. A strange tension hung in the air. The wind moved in sudden bursts, tossing loose metal platforms. Clouds of violet plasma swirled on the horizon, hinting at storms that could strike without warning. Lyra knew the nursery was not a safe place. It never had been. She had learned to protect the babies, but each new day brought challenges she could not always predict. As she guided the silver dragon to eat, a shadow flickered across the platforms. Lyra froze. High above, a predator glided silently on wings wide and dark, its eyes gleaming as it scanned the nursery. The babies hissed and shrieked, their cries cutting through the air. Lyra's heart raced, but she did not panic. She had learned to stay calm in storms, both of wind and fear. Holding the green dragon gently against her chest, she whispered softly, "It's okay. I've got you. Just stay close." The predator swooped down, aiming for the silver dragon. Lyra leapt forward instinctively, throwing herself between the creature and the baby. The predator hissed, wings flaring, but it hesitated. Lyra held her ground, her eyes locked on the creature. The silver dragon flapped its wings wildly, trying to help, and the golden-flecked dragon let out a loud, warning chirp. Together, they made a small circle of resistance, and the predator finally retreated, leaving the nursery trembling but safe. Lyra exhaled, her chest heaving. She realized she was learning something important. Courage was not about fighting alone, but about guiding those who depended on you. She gently set the silver dragon down and turned to check the other babies. The green dragon had almost fallen off a platform, its claws gripping the edge tightly. Lyra reached out just in time, catching it and holding it close. The golden-flecked dragon nuzzled her, sensing her relief and calm. Storms were frequent in this world, but today one moved faster than usual. Plasma lightning streaked across the sky, and the platforms shook violently. Lyra led the babies carefully, moving from stable ground to stable ground. She had learned their patterns, their signals, and their reactions, but the storm made everything unpredictable. One platform tilted sharply and the silver dragon slipped. Lyra dove, catching it midair, and landed on a narrow ledge, breathless. The babies chirped nervously, looking to her for reassurance. Lyra hugged them close, whispering, "We are safe now. Just trust me." By nightfall, the storm had passed, leaving behind a sky painted in violet and gold. Lyra laid the babies in their nests, feeling the small, steady rhythm of their breathing. She realized the lessons were not just about survival. They were about understanding, predicting, and responding. The babies had grown stronger, but so had she. She had learned to read their cues, to stay calm in chaos, and to act with both caution and courage. Yet the challenges did not stop there. One day the green dragon disappeared. Lyra searched frantically across the nursery, calling its name. Her heart pounded as she spotted a small shadow blending perfectly with the cliffs. The baby had learned to camouflage itself, hiding from danger, or perhaps testing her. Lyra approached slowly, mindful of sudden movements. She held out her hand, speaking softly, letting the baby see she was not a threat. After a tense moment, the green dragon emerged, chirping nervously but trusting her enough to climb onto her arm. The mother dragons observed silently from above, their eyes glowing faintly in the twilight. They tested her not with words but with situations that demanded quick thinking, patience, and courage. Every small crisis, the predator, the storm, the hidden green dragon, was a trial designed to push her beyond fear and hesitation. Lyra felt the weight of their expectations, though she could not yet understand them fully. Despite the dangers, moments of joy appeared. The silver dragon learned to flap in rhythm with her, following her guidance as they navigated the platforms. The golden-flecked dragon chirped happily when she sang, mirroring her movements. Even the green dragon, cautious and stubborn, began to respond to subtle gestures, trusting her more with each passing day. Lyra felt a quiet pride. She was not only keeping them safe, she was teaching them, guiding them, and growing alongside them. One evening, as she watched the twin suns set beyond the horizon, Lyra realized she had changed. The nursery no longer seemed impossible. The challenges, though dangerous, were shaping her. She was learning to trust herself as much as the babies trusted her. Each action mattered, a timely move, a careful observation, a gentle word. Each choice built a bridge of trust between her and the dragons, a connection that grew stronger with every trial. That night, she slept beside them, listening to their soft breathing and occasional chirps. Shadows danced across the walls of the nursery, and she sensed the mother dragon's presence above, silent but watchful. Their test was far from over, but Lyra felt ready for the next challenge. She had faced predators, storms, and the unpredictability of her young charges. She had learned to act without hesitation, to calm fear with presence, and to guide those who could not yet protect themselves. Lyra understood something now. The true test was not just about keeping the babies alive. It was about learning to lead, to understand, and to connect. The lessons of fire, flight, and fear were only the beginning. Each day, each crisis, each moment of trust was preparing her for a destiny far greater than she could imagine. As the stars began to twinkle in the dark sky above, Lyra whispered to the babies, "We will face everything together. Trust me and we will soar." They chirped softly in reply, and she felt a warm certainty in her heart. Shadows of the test would always appear, but she would meet them with courage, patience, and understanding. The journey had grown harder, but it had also grown brighter. Lyra and her small companions were learning the true meaning of trust, courage, and the bond between human and dragon. And so, beneath the floating cliffs and the violet-lit sky, she faced each shadow of the test, guiding, protecting, and learning step by step, preparing for the trials that lay ahead, and unknowingly moving closer to the destiny the mother dragons had chosen for her. The sky was painted with shades of gold and violet as Lyra walked carefully across the narrow platforms of the floating nursery. The babies chirped and flapped their wings excitedly, sensing something unusual in the air. Lyra paused, looking up. Massive wings cast shadows over the nursery. The mother dragons had come. Their scales shimmered like molten metal, reflecting the light of the twin suns, and their eyes glowed with wisdom older than time itself. Lyra froze, holding the golden-flecked dragon close. The babies instinctively pressed against her, chirping nervously. She had never seen creatures so enormous, so powerful. Her heart pounded in her chest. The mother dragons did not attack. They landed gracefully on nearby cliffs, their enormous claws gripping the edges with ease. They spoke, but not in words. Their thoughts reached Lyra's mind directly. "You have fed them, protected them, and guided them. But the final trial awaits. Will you lead when the skies fall?" Before Lyra could respond, a meteor storm erupted above the nursery. Rocks and shards of crystal rained down, striking platforms and sending tiny sparks into the air. The babies cried in fear. Lyra's chest tightened, but she did not hesitate. She scooped up the golden-flecked dragon and held the green dragon close with one arm, letting the silver dragon cling to her shoulder. She moved carefully across the swaying platforms, dodging falling debris and calling out softly to calm the babies. The storm was relentless. Platforms shook violently, and some began to tilt under the impact of falling meteors. Lyra's mind raced. She had learned the baby's signals, their movements, and their instincts, but nothing could have prepared her for this. She guided the silver dragon across a narrow bridge, holding it steady as its claws gripped the edge. The green dragon shrieked in fear, but Lyra's calm presence steadied it. "Trust me," she whispered. "We will get through this together." Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the mother dragons above. Lyra could feel their eyes on her, watching every move. It was not just a test of courage but of leadership, of her ability to guide others through danger. She realized then that she was not alone. The babies relied on her, but she also relied on what she had learned: patience, understanding, and instinct. One wrong step could hurt them, but hesitation would be worse. A large crystal fell directly in her path. Lyra dove to shield the golden-flecked baby, letting the crystal strike the platform beside her feet. The silver dragon flapped wildly, and the green dragon clung to her arm, trembling. Lyra held them close, whispering softly, "We are safe. Just follow me." Slowly, carefully, she led them across the remaining unstable platforms. Step by step, she moved, anticipating each hazard and guiding the baby's tiny wings. The storm began to subside. The sky cleared, leaving a faint glow of violet and gold across the horizon. Lyra exhaled, exhausted but relieved. The babies chirped softly, settling against her. She realized the storm had been more than a test of survival. It had been a lesson in leadership. She had learned to act decisively, to protect, and to guide without fear. She had learned to earn trust not just with care but with courage. The mother dragons descended closer, landing gracefully on platforms near her. Lyra felt their presence wash over her, immense and powerful, yet not threatening. Their thoughts filled her mind. "You have led them well. You have acted with courage, patience, and understanding. You see with clarity, not fear. You are ready." Lyra's heart swelled. She did not fully understand the weight of their words, but she knew she had earned their respect. One of the mother dragons extended a claw toward Lyra. A beam of golden light connected them, and Lyra felt a warmth unlike anything she had experienced. She saw flashes of the future, dragons growing strong under her care, flying alongside her, and a world where humans and dragons shared the skies. She realized then that the babies she had nurtured were not ordinary dragons. They were heirs, future queens of their kind. And she, by caring for them, had awakened a path to greatness she had never imagined. The babies responded to her newfound confidence. The silver dragon flapped its wings and circled her in a playful loop. The green dragon perched confidently on her shoulder, tail curling around her arm. The golden-flecked dragon chirped happily, nuzzling her face. Lyra laughed softly, feeling the joy and pride of their connection. She had not only guided them through danger but had become their protector and mentor. The mother dragons observed silently, then spread their wings and rose into the sky. They circled once, twice, and then disappeared into the horizon, leaving Lyra with the babies she had nurtured. Though the test was over, Lyra knew her journey had only just begun. She had been chosen not to follow but to lead, to raise the future queens of the skies and to guide them with wisdom, courage, and heart. As night fell, Lyra lay beside the babies in their nests. The stars sparkled above, casting soft light across the floating cliffs. She felt a deep bond with the dragons, a connection stronger than anything she had known. She understood now that care alone was not enough. Trust, courage, and understanding were just as important. She had faced the storm, the falling debris, and her own fear, and she had emerged stronger. Lyra whispered softly to the babies, "You are ready to grow, and so am I. Together we will soar higher than the stars." The babies chirped in reply, pressing close to her. She smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart. The mother dragon's approval lingered in the air, a quiet presence guiding her forward. From that day, Lyra no longer felt like a mere caretaker. She was a mentor, a guide, and a leader. She had learned to act decisively, to protect, and to inspire trust. The babies were learning too, growing stronger and more confident with each passing day. The floating nursery, once a place of fear and uncertainty, had become a place of growth, courage, and preparation for a destiny far greater than Lyra had ever imagined. And so, under the shimmering skies and glowing stars, Lyra fed, guided, and protected the dragons, awakening the future queens of the skies. Every flap of a wing, every trusting chirp, and every small act of courage brought them closer to the future the mother dragons had envisioned. The path ahead would be challenging, but Lyra was ready. She had learned the lessons of fire, flight, and trust, and in doing so she had awakened a destiny that would change the skies forever. The sun rose slowly over the floating cliffs, casting a warm golden light across the nursery. Lyra stretched, feeling the steady weight of the babies perched on her shoulders and arms. They had grown quickly, stronger and more confident with each passing day. The silver dragon flapped its wings proudly, circling above her head. The green dragon perched on a platform nearby, tail curling with contentment. The golden-flecked dragon chirped happily, brushing against her cheek. Lyra smiled. She had nurtured them from helpless hatchlings to young dragons full of life and curiosity. The mother dragons had not returned since the final test, but Lyra could feel their presence in the air, a quiet approval that guided her actions. She realized that she had changed as much as the babies had. She was no longer just a caretaker. She had become a mentor, a guide, and a protector. She had learned to act decisively, to anticipate dangers, and to inspire trust. Every moment spent with the dragons had shaped her into someone stronger, wiser, and braver than she had ever imagined. Lyra led the babies across the platforms, practicing flying exercises in the gentle morning wind. The silver dragon swooped around her in graceful loops, following her lead. The green dragon tested the edges of its wings, flapping carefully as Lyra encouraged it. The golden-flecked dragon darted and twirled, laughing in its own way, chirping with excitement. Lyra felt a deep sense of pride. She had taught them more than balance or flight, she had taught them trust and courage. One afternoon, she decided it was time to explore beyond the nursery. The floating cliffs stretched for miles, a maze of platforms and crystal formations suspended above the glowing oceans. Lyra held the babies close as they stepped onto a large, stable platform. The wind was stronger here, and the clouds swirled with the colors of the setting suns. She whispered to the babies, "Stay close. Watch me and trust me. We can explore together." They followed her exactly, wings flapping, claws gripping the platform. Lyra showed them how to judge distances, how to catch air currents, and how to navigate unstable ground. The silver dragon learned quickly, soaring ahead and circling back to check on her. The green dragon took longer, but with encouragement and careful guidance, it learned to balance and glide. The golden-flecked dragon was fearless, following her lead and exploring every corner with excitement. As they moved farther from the nursery, Lyra began to see the world through the dragon's eyes. The floating cliffs stretched endlessly, each formation a challenge and an opportunity. She saw predators lurking in the distance, clouds of plasma gathering in the horizon, and distant storms forming. She realized that the lessons she had learned, patience, courage, observation, and quick thinking, were not just for surviving the nursery. They were for surviving the world, guiding the dragons through it and helping them grow into leaders themselves. That evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, Lyra gathered the babies on a wide platform overlooking the glowing oceans. She sat with them, feeling the steady rhythm of their breathing and the warmth of their small bodies. She whispered softly, "You have grown so strong. You are ready for more. But remember, courage is not about fighting alone. It is about guiding, protecting, and understanding." The babies chirped softly, pressing close to her as if understanding every word. In the nights that followed, Lyra practiced flying higher, venturing farther from the nursery, and teaching the babies how to react to dangers before they happened. She guided them through storms, showed them how to hide from predators, and encouraged them to explore their world. The babies learned quickly. They became more independent but never strayed too far from her. Each day their trust and bond grew stronger. Lyra realized she had become part of a legacy, a bridge between humans and dragons, a guide for the next generation of leaders. One night, beneath a sky filled with stars and shimmering auroras, Lyra reflected on the journey she had taken. She remembered the first day when the babies cried endlessly and she did not know what to do. She thought of the storms, the predators, and the shadows of doubt that had threatened to overwhelm her. She smiled softly, realizing how far they had all come. The babies were no longer helpless. They were strong, confident, and ready to face the challenges ahead. And she was ready to lead them. Lyra stood on the edge of a platform, the babies gathered around her and looked out across the floating cliffs. She felt the presence of the mother dragons once more, silent and approving. She understood their purpose now. They had tested her not to see if she could survive, but to see if she could lead. By feeding the babies, protecting them, and teaching them, she had proven herself. She had become a mentor, a guide, and a protector. She had awakened the future queens of the skies. The silver dragon soared above, performing a loop in the air. The green dragon flapped its wings confidently, following her lead. The golden-flecked dragon darted around, chirping joyfully. Lyra laughed, feeling the warmth of pride and love. She knew that the babies would continue to grow, explore, and one day lead the skies themselves. And she would be there, guiding them, supporting them, and sharing in their triumphs. Lyra whispered softly to the babies, "The universe is wide and our path is long. But together we will soar higher than the stars." They chirped in reply, their tiny claws pressing against her, their wings flapping with excitement. She felt a deep certainty in her heart. The lessons of patience, courage, understanding, and trust had shaped her into someone capable of leading not only dragons but also herself into a future full of possibilities. The nights passed and Lyra continued to care for the babies, guiding them, flying with them, and watching them grow. The nursery had become a place of learning, courage, and preparation. Every flap of a wing, every trusting chirp, every shared moment of warmth was part of a legacy, one written in fire, trust, and courage. Lyra had started as a caretaker, but she had become something more. She had become a queen of the skies in her own right, and the dragons she had raised would carry that legacy forward. And so, beneath the endless sky and glowing stars, Lyra fed, guided, and protected the dragons, shaping a future where humans and dragons would soar together. Every act of care, every lesson learned, and every moment of courage had built a path toward greatness. The legacy she had begun was written not in words, but in fire, wings, and trust, a legacy that would echo across the skies for generations to come.